This is 9 News with Dougal Beattie.
Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news on a major technology outage affecting devices worldwide. Mark Santomartino joins me in the studio for more. Mark, obviously this is a developing situation. What more can you tell us?
Essentially, it seems to be linked to every device and every person that is hooked up to some sort of Microsoft service, Dougal. So about 5 or 6 hours ago in the US, it appeared that for developers who use Microsoft's cloud service, that pretty much everything they offered went offline, and that had impacts specifically in the US, including with some airline carriers who had to shut down their service late Wednesday night US time. They've clearly been trying to rectify that over the past 5-6 hours or so, but whatever they've done hasn't worked, and it seems like that outage has now spread to Australia. About 30 minutes or so, our computers here in the newsroom started going down. We were getting that blue screen of death. My own computer restarted 3 times and it just got stuck in that loop, so I wasn't able to log in at all. And this is going to be affecting a lot of people. It's not just us. I mean, our friends over at 3AW currently can't go to a commercial break. ABC Radio is playing BBC Radio. Sky News is playing Fox News. People are cutting corners to make ends meet right now, but this is really going to be affecting people at home today, because it's not just us in the media, it's banks, it's every website that people use. Microsoft Azure, which is their cloud service, has about a 25% market share, so it's affecting a lot of people.
You talk about that blue screen of death. Now, we've been tracking it on Down Detector. That's one of the websites here, but we can see just from that website that this is affecting multiple industries here. We're talking about banks. We've got Bendigo Bank, NAB. You can all see this spike about 30 minutes ago or so, where people are really experiencing these issues. And as you say, this could be a really serious issue if it's going to affect that banking sector. We don't know what's going to happen.
I think the problem right now is that we don't know how long this is going to last for. Typically when there's a big software update or an outage, you're told this is going to take a half an hour or an hour, or they try to time it so that it happens overnight, so you and I and everyone at home may not actually see this happening. The problem is there's been a spike that clearly Microsoft may not have been anticipating themselves, and we're seeing it affect everything from Xero, which is an accounting software, to Suncorp Bank, NAB, Microsoft 365, so Word and PowerPoint and all of those apps, as well as Foxtel, Bendigo Bank and so much more, Telstra, Commonwealth Bank, ABC. This is going to be pretty widespread. I mean, they had a similar outage back in January that only affected Microsoft Teams, and that lasted about 8 hours before they got that back up and running. So we're only about a half an hour in right now, and if you go on Microsoft's website itself, it pretty much at this point says everything is hunky-dory, that all of their services are working. So clearly they're not even caught up to what's happened in the past half an hour or so.
And we've just been looking online and we can sort of get some detail back. And you mentioned this was the grounding back in the US, where Microsoft, there was a significant outage, and that grounded Frontier Airlines. That's the low-cost carrier out there. And so they were stranded for a long time at international airports. That was the first time we knew of it, and it looks like it's probably spread from there.
Yeah, as I said, it looks like it started with the developer side of things, so the actual software engineers who run the back end of a lot of these websites, and then that's proliferated to a few people who have obviously been businesses using these tools themselves. So it started over in the US Wednesday night their time, and maybe we're not hearing more news out of the US because it's their night time or they're just waking up this morning. But for us, we're obviously in the middle of our work day, and the fact that a lot of these banking apps aren't working now, and a lot of people's access, I mean, we can't even log onto our computers because you've got to remember Microsoft also runs Windows. So it's not even like you can't access what you need to on the internet. It's you can't access your computer at all, in our case anyway.
It looks like, so it's happening here in Australia, but it looks like it's happening internationally as well. They're talking about this BSOD, which is the blue screen of death, where it just is basically a blue screen, you can't log into it anyway. But it looks like, from what I can tell from X or formerly Twitter, that it is impacting in Asia as well. So this looks like something that's quite extraordinary, we could say that, because I can't recall a time where we've ever faced an outage like this.
Nothing this sudden, and certainly probably nothing to this scale. As I mentioned, Microsoft Azure, which is their cloud software, that has about a 25% market share when it comes to all cloud infrastructure. So just try to grapple with those numbers in your mind. We're talking about a quarter of basically everything that runs on the internet being down at this point in time. So the other big players in this space are obviously Amazon and Google. Together, those big three own about 66% of the global infrastructure spend or market share for that cloud computing. So again, though, 25% for Microsoft Azure means that about a quarter of these businesses around the world, including things like OpenAI and ChatGPT, obviously those are very taxing systems, those artificial intelligence models, they all run on Azure services. There are businesses built from the ground up on Azure's platform, and those are the ones that have been impacted. So even though, and I suppose it's got a multiplying or a compounding effect, because even though Nine News, for example, might not run exclusively on Azure, if we can't access our computers, which run on Windows, it seems like it's going to have a much greater effect than we may have even anticipated.
Which will be okay at the moment. And first of all, what can people do? They can't really do anything. There's nothing that they can do. If you get this interface, this blue screen, there is absolutely nothing you can do to your computer.
Look, I've restarted my computer about 4 times, and I think yours has just gone offline there, so we might have lost our own auto cue, or not the auto cue just yet, thank God. But look, there's really nothing we can do about this. That is a haunting blue screen there, Dougal.
Yes.
How are you going to read the rest of the news?
I'm not sure.
But look, it basically comes down to the fact that you can either use a different product. So in terms of the other operating systems, there are Google laptops that don't rely on Windows. There are Apple laptops and computers that obviously use a different operating system. So those should be fine. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone, those should be okay as well. If you are basically using a mobile device, you should pretty much be okay with most things outside of what you might be looking for on the internet. Some of your apps might not be working, but if you have a Windows PC in particular, or you are one of these businesses that uses this cloud infrastructure, you're going to be pretty badly affected.
And that's the bottom line as well, isn't it? That businesses mostly run on Microsoft computers, Microsoft interfaces. There's not probably a whole lot that are running on the different ones.
Well, it depends. And I suppose most companies these days, even if they don't run exclusively on Microsoft, they may use Apple's operating systems for a lot of their business. There tends to be a bit of overlap. Like, we use a lot of Google systems here, but we're also using Windows PCs, and obviously those have all gone down around us. So it's normally a bit of a blend. Again, the real question now comes down to timing. I think most people at home, if they're used to browsing the internet on their phones, they're not really going to notice much of a difference unless they're trying to access either our broadcast or one of these businesses that is really struggling to get their service online. But if you are at work at the moment, like we are, trying to get everything back up and running so we can bring you the news now and at 6 o'clock, I think we're going back to the pen and paper.
It might be a bit of a struggle. Now, we did have access with this computer in our desk a short while ago, but in the time that we've been speaking, it's just flicked to that blue screen of death. But we're just going to have to see how it goes. Now it's going to this recovery mode, and I don't think we're going to have much success trying to get that.
No, that's the exact screen that I had on my laptop a number of times, and it doesn't matter which of those 2 buttons you push, advanced settings or restart my PC, it'll just go through the same loop over and over again, Dougal.
OK, we're going to try and figure out what this means for our bulletin and what it means for everyone else. But Mark Santomartino, thank you very much for your time today. I'm sure you're going to stick across this story, and we will bring you the very latest when we can. OK, Mark, thank you. Well, stay with us now. We have more on this breaking story throughout that bulletin, and we'll bring you the very latest as it comes into the newsroom. Moving to the rest of the day's news now, and Donald Trump has told the Republican Party faithful he has God on his side when he survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. In his first public speech since being wounded in last weekend's shooting, Trump officially accepted the Republican nomination to cheers and applause of his fans in Milwaukee. His pitch for the White House was heavy on promises.
Under our leadership, the United States will be respected again. No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might. Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets, patriotism to our schools, and importantly, we will restore peace, stability, and harmony all throughout the world.
Our US correspondent Lauren Tomasi is at the convention. We'll have her report a little bit later in the bulletin. Meanwhile, there's been reports Joe Biden could be persuaded to drop out of the election race as more key Democrats urge him to step aside. These details from US correspondent Jonathan Kersley.
The pressure really is piling on Joe Biden over his political future. He was Vice President